My name is Brian Westley Johnson, and I want to welcome you to another edition of Soulivity Live. Hey, how you doing, sir? My sister, how are you?
Hey.
This lens, right? Yeah. we might need some more wine for this.
So let's get this party started, y'all. Hey, my sister, Mademoiselle.
That is the most amazing introduction I've ever heard.
Oh, for being here. Oh, what an amazing day. Go make it even more amazing. Myself and Madison, Brian Westley Johnson. Thank you for joining us on Saturday morning. Full of passion, purpose, and high quality living. See you next time.
I'm done.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Soulivity Live, everyone. My name is Brian Westley Johnson, and I am so glad you joined us because you picked the perfect moment to get inspired. But before we get into today's show, I want to once again thank our guests from our last show. Thanks to actor, singer, and social justice advocate Jay Taylor. We had a wonderful conversation about what's going on in her career, as well as today's current events and challenges in our nation and our world. Man, she had a lot of good stuff to say. It was amazing, though, magical. Now, if you missed it, you can always see a replay of this show or any of our other shows by visiting our new and improved YouTube channel. Also, subscribe while you're there. You can receive alerts and notifications every time we go live. Now, let's get into today's show, shall we? All right. The year is 1984, and I was a teenager, actually a junior, attending my high school alma mater, Cass Technical High School in Detroit, Michigan. Go Technicians! I remember at the time how nervous I was about filling out all the paperwork for applying for colleges and universities, but especially at that time, the mandatory service, selective service or military draft document. I mean, you could not receive any financial aid without completing it. Now, during this time, the Cold War was raging. The world was still on the brink of nuclear war. And though I didn't show it too much, I was very frightened and concerned about the direction my life would be if an armed conflict broke out and I was sent into war. Now, don't get me wrong. Coming from a family of ancestors with proud military service, I would serve with all of my heart. And at the same time, I was still understandably emotional about that prospect. Now, fast forward to September 19th, 2020. Today. The COVID-19 pandemic has been raging in our country for many months now. 200,000 people have been killed by the virus, with millions of cases noted. I think if I were a teen today, I would be even more scared about my future. I mean, check this out.
We need to make sure that children and teens actually are part of the conversation. This is very new territory. Even young children are impacted by this. And so there's quite a bit of work being done to think about how do we talk to children. We know that from the past. We know that, for example, after the Boston Marathon bombing, families that actually talked to their children about what was happening and about what was being done, those children did better from a mental health perspective. I've been involved in response to, 9/11, Katrina, earthquake in Sichuan, China. Scientists recognize that some events happen and it's important to jump in immediately to be able to understand it. Mental health researchers have jumped in to be able to see what can we be learning now and continue to look at how does this impact the future.
So prior to the pandemic outbreak, we had an ongoing project that focused on the development, social emotional development, health, and well-being of Chinese and Korean American families. With the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, we started to see reports of increased acts of racism and xenophobia, both on social media, in the news, and also some of the families were, sort of reporting having some of these experiences. We're doing the first phase of data collection now at what we think is and hope is the height of the pandemic, and then in about 6 to 7 months, we're hoping that things will have improved and we'll be able to follow up then what happens with regard to their mental health and experiences with discrimination and anxieties and fears, and whether it plateaus and then dips down, or whether there is some sort of post-traumatic similar types of effects. What are resources that families have, that communities have, that parents and children have, that they can draw on?
They're going to be looking to the trusted adults in their lives. You as an adult are probably the most important figure in terms of how children and teens will cope.
Yeah, times are tough right now for everyone, but specifically parents and their children. This is why we at Soulivity, along with Beyond Words, thought it would be a great idea to support all of you in how to create more peace with ease, love, and care during these times of virtual schooling and distance learning, and to turn these challenging times into powerful transformational moments. And people, we got the dream team, the power team to help us out. I mean, check this out. Laurie Ann Thompson comes from a family of entrepreneurs and small business owners. She worked for major corporations, and she has co-founded a successful internet startup. In addition, she has led a regional nonprofit professional organization and volunteered with Ashoka's youth venture, which grants seed money to teens with big ideas. These days, she's trying to change the world one word at a time. Today, youth everywhere are rising up, building new organizations, and creating the changes they want to see in their communities and around the world. Thompson's Be a Changemaker gives readers the tools and confidence they need to affect real change. Luke Reynolds is a passionate believer in the power of stories to transform lives, especially stories that help us understand that we all fail and flounder sometimes. Luke has been a public school English teacher at both the secondary and middle school levels, and he is currently an assistant professor of education at Endicott College. In his teaching career, Luke saw the stress and anxiety his students suffered, whether it was over grades, fitting in, or simply getting things right the first time. Even More Fantastic Failures is a second installment in Reynolds' personal campaign to show kids it's okay to fall down or even make mistakes, just so long as you try again. Dr. Eileen Kennedy Moore is an internationally published author, psychologist, and trusted expert on parenting and children's feelings and friendships. Her books have been translated into 7 languages. She is a professor for the Great Courses, serves on the advisory board for Parents Magazine, and writes the popular Growing Friendships blog for Psychology Today. With research-based practical solutions and plenty of true-to-life examples presented in more than 200 lighthearted cartoons, her latest book, with co-author Christine McLaughlin, Growing Friendships During the Coronavirus Pandemic, is a toolkit for both girls and boys as they make sense of the social order around them. Wow, what a dream team, right? So it is my pleasure to welcome Laurie Ann Thompson, Luke Reynolds, and Eileen Kennedy Moore to Soulivity Live. Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hello, Brian. Thanks for having us.
Woo! I can't wait for this one. Remember, everybody, listen, we love your comments. We love your questions. Please post during the show, and we're going to get to as many of them as we can. The so we can get all these things answered. So, guys, listen, we were talking before about, kind of like, where do we begin in all, right? And I couldn't help but think we need to begin with the children, right? I mean, we as adults sometimes forget because we're in our own stuff and we're trying to be parents and providers and co-workers and that kind of thing, that we forget that, yeah, we're providing. They have a roof over their head, they got some food to stuff down their neck, they got the Xbox and the phone and social media, that they have a lot more going on in their world. And that these last 6 months, if we thought it was hard on us, it's got to be even harder on them, because we're talking about, especially like teens, they're like this, staying in the house. What? No. Not interacting with my friends, so that kind of way. No. So, Eileen, I'm going to go to you first. What are some of the things? I mean, because all three of you talk to and parents a lot. Eileen, from your perspective, what are some of the things that you have noticed about how children are dealing with the pandemic right now? What are some of the issues that are popping up?
I'm seeing a lot of anxiety. Partly it's because they've been cut off from their normal life for so long. And so there's been a lot of anxiety as kids start to go back to school in one way or another. There's also a lot of sadness and loneliness. For kids, the answer is friends. If you want kids to be more engaged with school, help them make friends. If you want them to be happier, help them make friends. If you want them to cope better with stress, help them make friends. And for a lot of children, that's been very, very difficult right now. So as parents, we need to do what we can to help them have that connection with friends. Shortly after the pandemic started, I have to give a plug for my publisher, Beyond Words. Christine McLaughlin and I had written Growing Friendships, which is a guide to help kids make and keep friends. But we talked to Beyond Words and our editors, and we said, we really want to do something for kids. And they worked with us, and we created a free ebook for kids everywhere, ages 6 to 12. It's called Growing Friendships During the Coronavirus Pandemic. It's funny, it's practical, it's our gift of love for the children who are lonely and feeling cut off from their friendships. It's full of practical ideas, like we talk about things that you can do that's fun with friends online. So children don't maintain their friendships by just staring at each other over Zoom. They do it by doing fun things together. So we have a lot of online activities. We have some offline activities. Not every family can give every child a laptop. So we have things that they can do, like creating a surprise for a friend and dropping it off. And
Wow.
and we also talk about ways to get together with friends that are still socially distant and still safe.
Wow. So wow. See, I love this show already. The personal interaction that you're talking about, the friendships, is such an important part of adolescence, going and becoming your own young adult. I mean, because I think adults sometimes don't realize there are these steps and processes in development, right? Where you're going from identity into adolescence, into young adulthood, into adulthood. And so there's all these different things that need to happen. Well, coronavirus, the pandemic, has kind of short-circuited some of those things that we normally would see, right? So I'm glad you mentioned that the friendship is a very, very important part of that. Luke, what about you? What are some of the things that you're seeing in your interactions with children
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing, similarly to what you mentioned, Eileen, the anxiety, the sadness, but even, being out, the face mask. There's some new research coming out on the effects of particularly young children, 2, 3, 4-year-olds, not seeing a smile. The smile sort of lets us know it's okay. things are going to be okay, that affirmation. But teens too, the common response, when I was teaching 7th grade, you always ask a kid, hey, how's it going? Fine, I'm fine. It's good. It's good. And what that really means is I'm not fine. It's not good. There's so much underneath. And now, a lot of what we're facing is it's a little bit harder to peel back that layer. And so when I work with kids now, and particularly even the college students, we've got to, as adults too, we have to be more intentional about being able to say, I know it's not fine. You don't have to talk to me, but we've got to talk to somebody. We need to talk about how we're feeling. And there's no shortcut. We've got to be able to say, I'm sad. And I think it's really hard for teens to say a simple thing like, I'm sad, I'm scared. And when they say it, and as adults, our response can't be, okay, let me tell you what you can do to fix that. Our response as adults has to be, you know what, you're sad, I am too. Like, period, I am too. And that connection, all of a sudden, it eases some of that sadness. It's like, man, my teacher's sad too. I'm sad, my dad, and then you stop and you're like, you want to go outside for a walk. You take the next step. So I think, long story short, I think that honesty, that they are not alone in what they're feeling, goes a long way towards redeeming what's happening.
Empathy is a powerful thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it, I think, again, we as adults, oh, well, we're working, we got, this money coming in, we're providing, that kind of thing, and I got everything together. And if I am feeling something, I deal with that alone.
Yes.
Right. I deal with that over here.
Yeah.
And we forget that our kids are going through the same kinds of things that we are. Wow. Yeah. Oh man, I'm again loving this show. Laurie, what about you? What are the things that you're seeing in your interactions?
Yeah, well, I have 2 teenagers at home, one who's a sophomore in college and one who's a senior this year. So
bless your heart.
Your opening, Brian, with that, what does my future look like? We're living it in my household right now. It's very personal. And yeah, there's so much anxiety, there's so much uncertainty. And, we kind of walk that line, I think, between trying to communicate to them that this is not normal. This is not what life is like, right? Because they don't have any other experience. And so they just think that, oh, this is something we have to deal with. Okay. Without like really amping up their fear, like, oh, this is unprecedented. Oh my goodness. I think in some ways it's a great opportunity to build resilience. I think looking back, it'll really be a gift that they can go, wow, I made it through that. And that was really something. So I think once we get on the other side, there are some real gifts that we can appreciate from that. But I also want to just mirror what Luke said a little bit about, these negative feelings. I think so often as parents, we feel like our job is to not let our kids experience hurt or anger or sadness or grief. They come to us saying that this is terrible and I miss my friends, like Eileen said, and I feel awful. And we want to go, oh no, it's okay. It'll be fine, right? We want to just brush it off and make it better, which is a fine intention. But I think it is really important to stop and like, both of them said, just acknowledge that anxiety and grief and loss, because they have really lost a lot and are still in the midst of it, right? And we don't know, there's so much uncertainty about when it will be over too. I think just taking that pause to acknowledge that, this is really hard. And it's really hard for everybody.
Right.
That is so true, because we adults tend to want to skip the feelings and go straight to the solution.
Right.
And just acknowledging the feelings, just holding that can be wonderful. So the formula that I often teach clients in my practice is, you're feeling blank because blank. or it's hard for you when, or it bothers you when, or you wish. Now, notice that all of those say you rather than I. For some reason, business people are often trained to say, I understand you feel whatever it is. And that's so annoying because it makes it about I rather
Very
than you.
transactional.
So, right, keep the focus on you. And even if you guess wrong, it's okay. The kid'll correct you. It's like, I'm not angry, I'm mad. Okay, fine. You know, they're still doing the work of wrapping those feelings up in words, which makes them more understandable and therefore more manageable.
Eileen.
And when we as parents
Yeah.
do that reflection, just describing the feelings we see, it's like
Yeah.
we're holding half the weight of those big feelings.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it feels like too little, but it's really very, very important.
I'm so glad that you brought that part of it up, because I think all three of you understand. I know I understand, parent, that we go through a maturing with our children, right? We're not the same people that we were before we had kids.
Yeah.
Right. And so as they grow, we're growing. So we're doing this kind of tandem thing,
Yeah.
and that we have to learn how to share our feelings and what's going on with them. And so my next question is, and I think the three of you have already kind of started talking about that a little bit, and that is, what have you seen in parents in terms of how they're dealing with coronavirus? And I'll go to you, Luke, first on that.
Yeah, I'm definitely, when I talk to parents, or particularly parents of middle school and younger kids, there's a lot of this feeling, I think you mentioned it, Laurie, a feeling that I need to have it together for them. I need to kind of figure it all out. Like when I think about my life as a classroom teacher, I would never start a lesson. The kids wouldn't come in unless I had everything set. What am I going to do? What's my activity? What am I going to show? I got to have everything ready. And I think this pandemic is exposing we can't, and that's just a hard truth. As for me as a teacher, that's hard to think about. I can't have it. I can't control this. And I think, to your point, Brian, this is where we bring kids into the situation. We bring kids into the conversation. So I have 4 boys, and my 3-year-old is very, very anxious, particularly about this, because for him, this is all new and the world is changing, the little he knew of it. But sometimes I'll have to say to him at 3 years old, like, buddy, what do you need? And he's starting to be able to say, like, I need a hug. Like, and sometimes my go-to is like, I'm going to talk to you about everything. And he's like, just give me a hug. Or like my 6-year-old will be like, my legs need to move, And so sometimes we feel as adults like we have to figure it out and then present the lesson to the kids. And I think this pandemic, to your point, Laurie, is kind of the silver lining. Is it's a chance for us to invite kids in and empower them and say, look, I may be the teacher or the parent, but I haven't figured it out. So you're going to have to help me. What do we need? Do we need to run around outside? Do we need to tell a silly fart joke to make us laugh? Do we need, whatever we need, let's kind of figure this out together. That seems to be one strategy I'm seeing some parents start to embrace.
Wow, thanks for that, Luke. And if you want to tell a funny fart joke, I'm down.
With 4 boys, that happens a lot.
All right, Laurie, how about you? What are some of the things that you're seeing in parents during this time? I mean, they're going through it too, and I want to make sure that we're bridging this gap, right?
Yeah. And it's similar to Luke. I think as parents, we try to portray this, we've got it all together, everything's under control all the time. And I think I've seen with the parents that I talk to and myself here in our house that, that's not really the best approach right now. It seems like just acknowledging, I'm having a bad day, let's order pizza tonight. Or, whatever it is, like, I think letting them see that there's some cracks in our armor is actually beneficial to them. Like this is a big deal and it's okay to not be okay all the time.
Right. Ooh, man. What a life lesson that is. I mean, and I'm being serious.
Right? We should do more of it, right? It shouldn't take something this big for us to show them that we're human.
I remember my grandfather, and I love him so much because he's always had these great pearls of wisdom to like share. And one of them was there's perfection and imperfection, right? So the lessons that you need to learn from like, well, everything's not going to be quote unquote okay all of the time. That's life.
Yeah.
But those are the opportunities for growth and that kind of thing. And all three of you write about this, you know, and from different perspectives, but it all ends up at the same place, which is growth, expansion, empowerment, you know, that kind of deal. Love it, love it. Eileen, how about you? What are you seeing in your talks and discussions with parents about, you know, the pandemic, how it's affecting them, and again, this is about bridging this gap between children, teens, young adults, and parents to make sure that they're connecting with each other.
So the parents are going through a lot of what the kids are going through. So the anxiety, the feeling blue, even Michelle Obama was talking about a low grade depression. And I think all of us have had those blue days where it's like, oh, how long is this going to go on? We're all carrying the weight of uncertainty as well, because we don't know what's next, or is this going to end? I don't know. It's scary to be reading about that, and especially with all the stories in the news about the political unrest and the human rights violations in our own country. It's very, very stressful. But the number one question that I am hearing from parents more than anything else is, am I a bad parent if? Fill in the blank. So, and I had one client who came in and she was saying, I feel like I should be using this time to create memories for my children and to get buff and to create gourmet meals and, you know, do extra reading. And I said, don't do that to yourself, because we don't want to be aiming for that Instagram perfection. And you know, as soon as that picture was taken, the kids are all pulling each other's hair. That's not real at all. That is not real. So I would recommend a different standard for these difficult times as a parent, which is, if you end the day with the same number of kids you started with, you're doing okay.
One hasn't eaten the other one.
There you go.
You know, one or has eaten one of the pets. You know, the house is not on fire.
Yeah.
You know, you know, all that kind of stuff. I mean, let's pull that thread a little. We, as parents, a lot of times hold ourselves to such standards that at like right now that are unobtainable. Like, oh, we're just, yes, COVID, you know, I got this, you know, fire, school shut down, you know, when we have zero clue as to how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And that gives us that additional anxiety about how we're going to handle it. Luke, I hear you doing the Bring it, brother. Tell me what you're thinking right now.
You know, I mean, like we talk. I work with the college students a lot on this idea, especially now, the notion of redefining success. And I think this pandemic is forcing us to redefine success. What do we see as a triumph for a day? And for college students, you know, they're used to, like, they've got their checklist, they've got calendars, they've got all these things they're doing. And during class this year, I've been forcing them to stop in the middle of class, stand up, take deep breaths, and sit down and say, look, success is going to look different this year. You may not write as fast. You may not think as clearly. You may not gain as many friends. And that's okay. And I think the more we tell ourselves success can look like different things, the more content we'll be. And I know that gets some harsh criticism sometimes. It feels like lowering standards. But the reality is we are surviving, and thriving can look different than what we've always imagined it to be. Like, my wife and I joke, we'll have cereal for dinner nights during the pandemic. We're like, look, we're not cooking anything. We're not even going to drive to the pizza store. Yeah. We're like, everyone pour a bowl of cereal and that's it. Like, you can have seconds if you want, and that's it. And that's okay. That the reality is it's okay. And so redefining success has been a huge motivator for us.
Laurie, what about you? I know that you got 2 boys. We had our handful with one. And love them. All that. And there's what we're kind of going through, and the standards that we're trying to hold ourselves to during a time at which it's like, no, we're just trying to make it through the day, or we're trying to take, like how, the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? You don't take the whole thing in your mouth, And so what are you thinking about that? What are you feeling about that?
Yeah. And, for me, it's really, I think it applies to life in general. It's all about managing your expectations, right? If you set your expectations too high, you're going to be disappointed, and it's going to be crushing. And I think, one of the secrets of happiness is really just managing where our expectations are. And for right now, I think, those expectations, they need to be lowered. The weight of all of this anxiety and fear, and if you think about it, every decision that we have to make in a day now has so much more complexity around it, right? You can't just stop at the grocery store and pick up dinner, right? It becomes this whole calculation that there's so much behind it that goes into that. And so I think all of that, there's just a simple stress caused by the uncertainty and the unknown. Then there's all this other stuff that we're having to figure out and learn as we go and make up, and that all takes a certain amount of mental energy. I think just acknowledging that, that is all there and it's all real, and we're all doing all of those things. Even kids are doing them all too, right? And
Absolutely.
And we have to lower our expectations accordingly, because this stuff is taking up so much of our mental and our emotional space. It does sound a little bit like a cop-out and like, oh, well, now we just get to coast. but there's so much real weight there behind all this other stuff that it's just not fair to ask anyone to keep performing at that level.
Exactly.
And in my own household, with, like you say, with teenagers, we're all firing on all cylinders some days, and then some days it's just blah,
Right.
and just acknowledging that, oh, this is one of those days where we're just gonna pause, and it's gonna be okay. We'll get back on the treadmill tomorrow.
Well, speaking
Sometimes
of
we
pause,
just need to pause.
exactly, and I think we're going to take a quick pause. But when we come back, everybody, we're going to make this turn, because I think, we talk a lot about what the challenges are, what the complications are, what pain that we're feeling, which is all important. That's what I say, awareness. You have to be aware of what's going on, right, guys? But we also want to give you some practical things, some leave behinds. How do you move from where you are today into tomorrow? And we're going to talk about the opportunities that exist. But before we get that, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame, living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
And we are back with our dynamic group, and I'm going to put them up on the screen so you guys can see. We're back with Laurie Ann Thompson, Luke Reynolds, and Eileen Kennedy Moore. Guys, we talked before about the challenges and complications, issues that are existing, adults, parents, children, and teens. And I want to make this turn now toward the opportunity that exists, right? Where we can, if you're having trouble out there and you're feeling what we're talking about in terms of, I really don't know how to deal with all of this. I want to begin to give you some support. You have these people, these fabulous people. So, Eileen, from your perspective, what are some of the opportunities that exist? And I mean, I think you were talking about it before in terms of like friendships and that kind of thing. Awesome. And I think it's very important. What are some other threads that children and teens pull during this time and seize what is really an opportunity for growth? What do you see in that?
Well, with all the strain that we're all under now, with everything being different and everything being harder than it was before, and some people are dealing with the big stressors of illness or death or going to work and feeling scared. But even without those big stressors, we're all feeling the weight of this uncertainty and the strain of, oh my gosh, it's still going on. I think we need to recognize that it's a when, not an if, when we lose it with our kids. But this is actually an opportunity for us as parents to teach relationship repair. So when, not if, you lose your patience with your kids, or maybe yell at them, or respond in a snappy way, or just say no when you could have said yes, take a deep breath. Apologize to your child. I know that's hard for parents, but it's such a good thing if we can apologize for them. Make a plan about how you're going to do it differently. And maybe you'll just do that internally, or maybe you'll tell your child, this is what I'm going to do instead. Or maybe talk with them about what can we do together to prevent this. And really view this as an opportunity for learning how to get past those rough spots, which are going to happen in any relationship and are probably happening now more than usual. I have one family that I work with that has a beautiful tradition of, after a rough spot, any family member can say to another family member, let's have a do-over. And I think that is so beautiful, because really love means trying again. That's the bottom line.
Wow. You're dropping some knowledge, Eileen. I mean, we do all get to have do-over, right? There's nothing set in stone. And so thank you for that. Laurie, what about you? What are some of the opportunities that you see exist for children and teens?
Yeah, I actually think there are a lot of opportunities right now. I think that one of the scariest things is feeling powerless. And I think that as soon as you take some kind of action, it really diffuses that fear and that anxiety. And so for me right now, it's about finding ways that kids can be a part of this and be part of the solution. It's about finding actions that they're invested in, that they enjoy, where they can give back to the community. And, you know, it's not about putting one more thing on their plate, right? Oh, hey, kids, save the world for us, right? We don't want to put that on them, right? But if they can find something that really does give them joy and that they really feel like they can make a contribution, it goes so far into giving them a purpose, into giving them some power over this situation, and to making them feel like they have a little bit of control. I think, you know, this situation feels so out of control, and kids especially don't get to control very much of what happens in their life. And so I think helping them identify something that uses their passions and their skills that can make this situation better for someone else, it really just broadens up how they look at things. And, you know, that might be as simple as when I walk in the park near my house, every now and then I'll find a painted rock that has, you know, just the word love or a smiley face, or, you know, and it's just such a joy and a surprise to see this beautiful painted rock and to think about the person who took the time to make that and go hide it in my neighborhood park. You know, that's something really easy that kids can do, and they know that they're bringing joy to their neighbors. You know, I've heard about kids who play musical instruments and they'll just go and do a performance on the street, and the neighbors will come out on the porch and listen to them. You know, how cool is that? Using something that they enjoy, that they're good at, to elevate others and to make the situation a little bit more bearable for all of us. I think that, you know, this is just such an unprecedented time that we kind of need all hands on deck. And kids can do so much if we invite them to. And again, it's not about piling on and saying, well, now you got to go do community service on top of all of this, right? We don't want it to be that. We want it to be legitimate investment and interest and joy for them to do. And I think it is such an opportunity for them to contribute and make a difference and feel that power and purpose, that if we can help them find that, it's just so powerful.
Wow, the again, the powerful stuff. Laurie, I mean, you're talking about, you know, helping our children look within and pulling out what brings them joy and then sharing that joy with the world, right?
Exactly.
And that being a part of, you know, the service isn't just the effort. The service is the give and receive of the love, right? That connection that happens. And then, you know,
Absolutely.
love begats love begats love begats love, right? Wow.
Right. And especially now during this, where, you know, we're all feeling so isolated and we're all feeling so cut off.
Absolutely.
To have that connection, you know, even if you can't see it, even if it's putting the rock in the park and you never see the person who finds it, right?
Right.
You know that you've made a connection with someone out there, and it really cuts through this sense of isolation, I think, to help someone else.
And Luke, you know, you talk about this in your book as well, and you know, turning lemons into lemonade, you know, pulling out this joy, you know, Eileen was talking about similar concepts, and that, you know, we're all in this together. Tell me about the opportunities that you see. I mean, because you're right there teaching and talking directly to the students or children and teen adults.
Yeah, well, I love what Eileen and Laurie, what you both shared. I think that's profound. And I think all of this, like what we talked about earlier in the show, feel what you're feeling, talk about it. And then the third thing I really believe with kids is small, healthy action is an antidote to anxiety. And so this, I think, I'll go super practical. One very real opportunity we have right now is literally get the heart rate up, right? Like when we think about things that, you know, in the classroom, kids are often get nervous when they're about to speak and their heart rate gets moving. but physically, what can we do with kids to get their heart moving? So little kids, like it could be something simple, like a 2 or 3, 4-year-old, like we're going to do jumping jacks for 2 minutes, and just getting the heart rate up and feeling like, hey, I've told you I'm sad. I got my hug. Okay, now we're going to do jumping jacks. Or like, teenagers, let's just go for a walk and talk about like your favorite new Marvel movie, or, your favorite, the book you're reading, or
Right.
something they're interested in. For the college students, I mentioned we stand, we do deep breaths, we walk around the college building as we talk about academic stuff, but in some way getting ourselves moving. It's that physical reminder that, look, the world is not as we want it, but we can still put one foot in front of another physically. We can still move our arms. We can still do things that remind us our hearts can beat faster. And somehow that also helps us feel like things are going to be okay. Jen, just physically, the physical act of moving our bodies in whatever way we can. We all have different bodies. Any way we can move something in our bodies. It's that reminder that life will go on. This is not the end. And I think that's a scary thought that kids feel, is like, what if this is it? And we as parents, we can model, and teachers model. It's scary, but it's not the end. And that physical movement is that real internalization that it's not the end. We are going to keep moving forward.
Wow. I'm gonna say something that may be surprising to, but all three of you were talking about about mind, body, soul. All this different connections between this synergy energy that revolves around that exists in our children, by the way, parents. They exist in them too. And that they haven't been on the earth that long in this human body, this human existence. So they're going to react to things like pandemics and other things at a deeper kind of level than us, because they're like, oh, this is just the one. I've got such a long life to live. I wanted to go to homecoming. I mean, and you guys know, I mean, you've heard about how cute, they got this event that they want to go to next week. That's like, if I don't go, I'll die. I mean, they are literally internalizing this moment by moment experience, because that's what they know. That what teen is a planner, as a 5-year planner?
Luke, I want to add to what you were saying about the physicality.
Yes, please.
I am such a believer in the power of touch. It is our most basic way of connecting and soothing. But it's also really important to follow our kids' lead about what kind of touch works best. So some kids are real snugglers and they love a come to mama hug. But some kids are too busy for that mushy stuff during the day, but they'll take a back rub at bedtime. And some kids, especially the teenagers, you have to do what I call sneaky nurturing.
All right, what's sneaky?
Well, the kid is sitting there, and you walk by and you brush their hair or you squeeze their shoulder, and you keep moving, and you're there and gone before they can even object. But you got that little sneaky nurturing in there.
I got to use that. That's, I love it. I love it.
The other thing is humor. Laughter just releases all the tension. And so we want to find ways to be playful with our kids. And I'll tell you one that's pretty funny.
Okay.
But I did not make this up, but I read it somewhere, and I just think it's hilarious. So everybody in the family gets a mouthful of water, and you sit around the table and you try to make each other laugh. Whoever doesn't spit all over themselves wins, but then they're going to spit all over themselves. That kind of silliness, I mean, you can just feel the tension releasing and the connection building.
Wow. I'm sure my wife, if we were going to do that, she'd have we'd have to put the plastic out everywhere,
But it could be. It doesn't have to be that dramatic. It could be, just talking with an accent as you're doing it. Or,
I love it.
Love to laugh. Yeah,
I love it though. I mean, again, we don't laugh enough. We don't smile enough. Growing up in the Midwest, I remember one thing that was prominent when I was growing up, like if you're walking down the street, would smile to each other. They didn't have to know each other. Good day, how you? You know, you'd smile, and it does affect it. It releases this endorphins and all the
Yeah.
chemicals, and it makes you feel good, and you have this
Mhm.
give and receive, and you connect.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's wonderful. I think parents really and children need to do that kind of stuff. Where you laugh and you tickle, do the the sneak attacks. I love it. I love it.
I think especially now when they are so isolated and cut off from their friends,
Right.
we are their group right now, right?
Right.
And I think it's a great time for us to strengthen our group and to build our families up and to reestablish some connection that maybe we've lost. You know, like I said, I've got a college kid who's home again, and a senior in high school, and probably in most situations we wouldn't be seeing either one of them very much. And now we're all just here together in the house all the time. And there's something really sweet and beautiful about that. And you know, acknowledging that, hey, we have this opportunity to be a family, to be a cohesive unit, and to get through this together, and really depend on each other. It's really kind of a beautiful thing, and just acknowledging that, you know, I mean, we're very fortunate that that is our situation, but I think it's just a blessing.
Wow. While we have time, I have one final question, and that is, we talked about, the challenges, the opportunities now, and I want each of you to think about specifically what's that one nugget, that you, I mean, because you're counseling parents, you're counseling, written information about it, you have fabulous books that we're going to post about. Everybody can go out and get. But what is that one that you're thinking of? What is that one nugget, that one leave behind? Want to give our viewers today?
Mhm.
And I'll go with you, Eileen.
I think the one nugget is that we get through the hard things together.
Mhm.
It's all about connection, connection between parents and kids, connections between siblings, if there's more than one kid at the home, connection with our broader families, with our broader communities. Reach out. And, I get a lot of, in my practice, a lot of parents talk about, my child has low self-esteem. The answer to that is not to convince the kid that they're great, because honestly, who stands in front of a mirror and says, gosh, I'm special? That's nonsense. What we want to do instead is expand our sense of self, to turn down the volume on self-focus and self-judgment, and instead connect with something bigger than ourselves, whether it's our family, our community, a cause that we care deeply about, to take action on it. Laurie Ann, you've said so many wonderful things, that if kids can connect with something bigger than themselves, it makes life easier and more meaningful.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Wow. Luke, what about you? What about you, brother?
I think what comes to mind is just the phrase, this is not the end. And, in college, I was really into the Russian novelists, and they, like the Brothers Karamazov and Crime and Punishment, these big novels. And what struck me about them is it's dark, 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 dark. And then there's like this tiny bit of hope at the end. And what's profound about it is this is not the end. This is an especially long chapter that we've never experienced. But this chapter will end, and there will be a new chapter. And I think to internalize that as parents, as teachers, to embody that as much as we can when we interact with kids, to have that knowledge that this is not the end. This is an especially long, hard chapter, but this novel will go on. This book will continue to move. The narrative will take a new turn, but it's not over.
Wow. Thank you for that. Got me. Both of you got me on those. I mean, I'm like, woo. Laurie, what about you?
Yeah, make me go last and follow those two.
Bring us home, girl. Bring us home.
Well, since Eileen stole my action is power, which is what I was gonna say.
Go for it. Say it.
And
You say it so
I
well.
wholeheartedly endorse. I guess something a little bit similar to Luke in that, you know, as humans, our brains are really wired to look for the negative and to focus on the things that might be scary and dangerous. And so while we're focusing on all of those things, which is great, that's what keeps us alive, we don't focus on the joy and the connection and the happiness. And I think that's really one thing that I know I'm trying to do personally, you know, as a parent and out in the world, just trying to help people acknowledge that joy, whether it's, you know, my dog sitting on my lap and wow, I feel so lucky to have the time to sit here and pet my dog. You know, something simple like that. But even to pause and acknowledge that painted rock in the park, like, wow, that's really special. And I think just really letting our brains process those moments of joy and give them the same kind of elevation, the same kind of status as all of this negativity that we're dealing with.
Wow. You know, it's funny because I'm thinking about our conversation before we were doing the show and how things come back, right? Where I think as parents, we think that we've got to do it all, you know, and that if we just say something to our children, that it immediately happens and everything is fine. Or we have these expectations that that's what's supposed to happen, and we have no support, or we don't bring in support. And so the ideas that the three of you have brought together around community, right? And community to empower hope and joy, you know, and that through those things we'll get through this with the understanding and knowledge this is not forever. This is a finite period of time. You know, just like in other things that have happened with the flu and other things, time moves on, we move past it. And, you know, this is an opportunity for us to really create a new normal that will last beyond this, because I think that's another important aspect. So I want to thank all three of you for being so committed and dedicated to that kind of mission, right? Where we're growing happiness, we're enduring through failure and creating, you know, becoming change agents. What I did there? What I did there? But seriously, thank you so much for being here. I knew this show was going to be good, but it's even better than mine. Thank you. I think I think we did our job here. You know? And would you come back? You know, I would love to do more shows on that are supportive to parents and children and that kind of thing. And parents out there, please share this information in this show with your kids, so they can go, yeah, Dad, yeah, Mom, I told you that you know, you can hear all that too, and do sneak attacks and fart jokes and stuff like that. So, no, thank you again. Hang on a second. We're going to talk a little bit more about our partnership with your organization, which is also one of our collaborative partners. As we kind of alluded to earlier, and that we've been talking for a long time now, we have this fantastic partnership and collaboration with Beyond Words Publishing. And as part of this collaboration, all of you out there get the benefit. We are actually doing giveaways. We're giving away books and different other kind of products like I-Ching cards. We've got another giveaway coming up of different books. We've given away some things from Paul O'Brien. We've given away some things from Catherine Tristan and a whole lot of other artists and authors. Maybe one of the three people that you see today, maybe we give away one of their books as well. But to become a winner, you need to go and join our new Soulivity Magazine book club called Inspiration Central on Facebook. You go to Facebook, you type in Soulivity Magazine book club, and you just join. And we'll be posting details about all the fantastic giveaways there. Again, we'll be giving away great gifts such as books and king cards and a whole bunch of other things over the next few months. So I wanted to make sure that you knew about that and that be. Also, don't forget that to check out Soulivity TV, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Coming tomorrow, we have our regular lineup with morning yoga with Michaela, as well as live with Jesse and Melva, or as I call them, Mom and Dad, who will be talking about great relationship advice just for you. They'll be continuing their series on betrayal, which is actually an empowerment for both men. Now, before we end the show, I could not end the show without talking about some important news that happened yesterday. And we lost a giant on the Supreme Court. We want to report that Associate Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died yesterday evening, surrounded by her family at her home in Washington, due to complications of metastatic pancreatitis. She was 87 years old. Now, some things that you may not know is Ruth Bader Ginsburg wanted to be a clerk at the Supreme Court in 1960, but she was rejected because of her gender. Now, she was undeterred. She blazed her way into the legal profession, fighting for women's rights, including winning a landmark Supreme Court case. And she did make it to the nation's highest court in 1993 as just the second woman ever to become a justice, and as well as becoming a celebrated figure and icon, simply known as the notorious RB. Now, we at Soulivity salute this American hero and wish her family sincere condolences and warm support during the time. And I think for all of us, I think the thing to remember is that her example shows what can be achieved with dedication, commitment to all of us. It's all about community. She embodied that. And the decisions that we make today can affect a lot more people. And so I want all of you to think about her life story, the things that she has done for all of us, and take action. Move. Do what you can do to serve our community. Talked a little bit about it today on this panel. There's so much more all of us can do. So I just wanted to make sure that we remember her legacy, and continue it through our own action. Well, on behalf of Laurie and Luke and Eileen and myself, this is Brian Westley Johnson saying to all of you, thank you for joining us. This has been such an amazing, amazing show. Again, thanks to the three of you. I think we gave people some hope and some things to take with them so that they can move through their days a little bit happier, a little bit more peaceful, some love and some. I think that's what it's all about. So thanks to the three of you again. And to all of you out there, you know the tagline. I am wishing all of you a life full of passion, purpose, and high quality living. All right? Bye-bye now. Thank you for watching Soulivity Live with Brian Westley Johnson right here on Soulivity TV, Saturdays at 10 a.m. Soulivity Magazine brings you the best in inspiration on Soulivity TV. Check out our new shows. Mark your calendars for Soulivity Magazine shows by going to soulivity.com now.